Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's manufacturing sector continues its robust performance in November. Strong performance of this sector is expected to continue in 2024. Defense chiefs of the United States, Australia and the UK meet in California. They stress on high-tech cooperation for deep space radar, AI and quantum computing systems. The space race intensifies in the Korean Peninsula. South Korea launches its first military spy satellite after Pyongyang's launch of a surveillance satellite last week. India remains among the fastest growing major economies in the world. India's manufacturing sector continued its momentum and witnessed growth during November. Let's look at this report.
India's manufacturing sector continues to see expansion for 29th month in a row. The data by the rating agency SP Global Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index or PMI survey shows India's PMI climbed to 56 and rebounded from 8-month low of 55.5 in October. Any survey prints below 50 indicate contraction, but India continued the growth momentum. SP Global says India is expected to lead growth in the Asia-Pacific region. The credit rating agency predicts India's GDP to reach 6.4% for the fiscal year ending March 2024, up from its previous forecast of 6%. India has performed well than other major economies. China's manufacturing PMI rose to 50.7 in November from 49.5 in October. The other Asian countries which witnessed manufacturing growth in November include Philippines, Indonesia, Qatar, Singapore and South Korea. Meanwhile, countries like Japan, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Israel and Vietnam witnessed manufacturing contraction with below 50 PMI. In Europe, Greece and Ireland witnessed a manufacturing expansion in November, while countries like the UK, Spain, Netherlands, Italy, France and Germany all observed manufacturing contraction in November with PMI below 50. The SP Global's manufacturing PMI survey report comes a day after India's National Statistical Office released the country's GDP growth data. India is currently the world's 5th largest economy and is on the track to become the world's 3rd largest economy with a projected GDP of $7.3 trillion by 2030.
एक दशक पहले भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था अत्यंत चिंताजनक अवस्था में थी। भारत को दुनिया के फ्रेजाइल 5 देशों में माना जाता था। दुनिया की अर्थव्यवस्था पर भारत जहां विश्व की 1/6 आबादी रहती है, वो दुनिया पर एक बोझ था। दुनिया के देश चिंतित थे कि भारत फ्रेजाइल 5 से कैसे ऊपर आए। ये मात्र एक दशक पहले की बात है और आज का नतीजा ये है कि हमने यूके को और फ्रांस को पीछे छोड़कर 2022 में एक महारत हासिल किया और भारत दुनिया की 5वीं बड़ी महाशक्ति बना।
Official GDP data says India's economy recorded a 7.6% growth in the second quarter of the current financial year 2023-24.
The fact that the economy has grown at 7.2% last year and at 7.7% in the first half of this year is telling in itself. And if I look forward, with a 7.7% growth in the first half of the year, even with a 6.3% average in the second half of the year, India will grow at 7% this particular financial year. In general, I think because of the sui generis policy that India implemented, India had the self-confidence and the courage of conviction to chart its own path.
The rise in India's GDP growth can be attributed to increased government spending and strong performance in the manufacturing, mining and construction sectors. Abhishek Bose for DD India.
And India's Minister of State for Skill Development, Rajiv Chandrasekhar, inaugurated the mega conference on chartered accountant students. This is for them in Kozhikode on Saturday. The Minister, Chandrasekhar, he hailed India's digital economy and said that it is growing 2.5 times faster than the regular GDP.
In the area of expertise, let me tell you on digital economy, 2014 it was 4.5% of GDP. Now it is 11% of GDP, and by 2026 it will be 20% of GDP. You have unlimited opportunities to succeed and prosper.
Climate activists across Europe are calling on leaders meeting at the COP28 to agree on firm commitments to cut fossil fuel use. In Germany, a high-profile organization continues to draw criticism for the methods that they are using to try and shine a spotlight on the climate cause. From Berlin, Trent Murray reports.
Across Germany, the colour orange has become a symbol of protest, synonymous with green causes. Climate activists from the group known as Last Generation creating headlines as they disrupt traffic, vandalise public monuments, and get into heated exchanges with members of the public. It's leading to a national conversation about whether this type of action is helping or hindering the climate action cause.
I think their actions are highly problematic, as climate protection is the central challenge of this century.
This group must be stopped now. In the end, they want a different society, the end of the market economy, the end of growth.
They are making this a radical, niche issue and causing the centre of society to completely lose its understanding of what climate protection is all about.
Fight for climate justice!
But just a few hundred metres from the German parliament, protesters from the group gathered to coincide with COP28, making no apologies for their acts of civil disobedience.
For me, this little blockades on streets on the rush hour is not a very problem for me, because I drive by bike most of the time to work.
We have to wake up, and the climate is in an emergency status.
Some critics would say, look, that type of action is maybe a hindrance. It doesn't help the cause, it just makes people angry. I mean, how do you respond to people that have that argument with you?
If you are irritating people, that's fine with me, because when you irritate people, then something is happening. There's not going to be a transformation with people when they are comfortable, so we have to be very annoying.
Well, as the world meets in Dubai for COP28, many of the protesters here say they are simply not confident that there will be positive outcomes from that meeting for the climate change cause. They are instead saying it is the power of people and not politicians that will solve the climate crisis.
But whether groups like these are bringing people with them remains up for debate. A recent poll revealing that the vast majority of Germans believe that Last Generation's actions go too far.
The polls say we have 4 out of 5 Germans who say they don't like these kind of protests. On the other hand, if you ask them whether they think it's legitimate to engage in these kind of protests when you connect it to the climate crisis and to the inactiveness of the government, half of Germans would say, yeah, it's legitimate. Everyone in our society needs to ask themselves the question, what am I doing right now? Am I just a bystander, or do I take action?
Despite pushback, groups like these say they're not going anywhere, and they continue to attract new members from a cross-section of society. Doctors, scientists, even religious groups. They all say they're fighting for the next generation. And they hope that as gas-guzzling countries gather in the Gulf, they will all agree to sing from the same song sheet when it comes to making the tough calls on cutting emissions. Trent Murray for DD India, Berlin.
Well, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has successfully concluded his visit to Dubai for the COP28 summit, and he highlighted the key moments. The Prime Minister shared a video on social media platform X. The video shows the glimpses of his bilateral meetings, his interactions with global leaders, and his summit speech, focusing on contribution of all countries against climate change.
सबके हितों की सुरक्षा आवश्यक है, सबकी भागीदारी आवश्यक है।
On Prime Minister Narendra Modi's successful visit to Dubai, the Foreign Secretary of India, Vinay Quatra, said that the Prime Minister had the opportunity to discuss and promote clean and green growth.
Prime Minister highlighted 6 key points. First, India's ambitious climate action targets and the rapid progress that the country is making in its achievements. 2, priority that India has accorded to and the concrete outcomes that the country has achieved on the climate agenda during India's G20 presidency. 3, need for climate justice. 4, need also to assist the global south in addressing a problem that is not of their making and that they did not contribute to making. 5, need for a resolute climate action that is decisive, based on unity, more balanced, ambitious and innovative. And 6, India's readiness to host COP33 in 2028.
India's Foreign Secretary is India's top career diplomat. Moving on, world leaders participating in the COP28 climate summit in Dubai shared some light moments on social media. The Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, posted a selfie with her Indian counterpart Narendra Modi on her social media platform on Friday. And replying to her post on X, Prime Minister Modi said that meeting friends is always a delight. Heavy snowfall hit southern Germany on Friday night and continued on Saturday, causing major disruptions at Munich airport, the second busiest hub in Germany. Long-distance trains and hundreds of flights in and out of Munich were cancelled due to the incessant snowfall. Earlier in the week, efforts were made to save 24 pink dolphins who were stranded in the shallow Bolivian river, aiming to protect the species. The rescued dolphins, 14 of them were female, 10 were male. They were relocated to the Rio Grande River on Saturday. Paving the way for Christmas cheer and traditional drinks and sausages, Germany's Nuremberg Christmas market opened for visitors on Friday. The market has 170 stalls selling crafts such as Christmas stars, wooden figurines and food. Venezuelans took to the streets on Friday to show their support for Sunday's referendum over its rights to the region around the Essequibo River. The referendum, it asks Venezuelans if they agree to incorporate the region and create a state. Still to come here on DD India Live. The U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken says that the United States is determined to make an effort, all efforts in fact, to free hostages from captivity. The space race intensifies on the Korean Peninsula. And good news for Nadal fans, he's announced his return to competitive tennis. India celebrates Festival of Democracy. Crucial election results of 4 states of India: Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Telangana. DD India reports from Ground Zero. Get authentic election news, views and analysis. 8 a.m. onwards or 2:30 a.m. GMT. Only on DD India, a voice of credibility.
The cabinet and secular debate and second
You're watching DD India Live. My name is Mark Lynn. Updates now on the Israel-Hamas conflict. Well, multiple rockets were seen flying over an area which is near the Israel-Gaza border as Israel resumed operations to neutralize the threat posed by Hamas after the end of the truce between the two of them. The White House has singled out Hamas, saying that it had failed to produce a new list of hostages to release to enable an extension of the truce. Meanwhile, the Israeli troops identified the body of one hostage and confirmed the death of 4 others seized by Hamas after a temporary truce between the two came to an end. The chief military spokesperson, the Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, said that the families of the hostages had been informed of their deaths. The U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said that the United States is determined to make every effort to free the hostages from captivity.
We're determined to do everything we can to get everyone home, to get them reunited with their families, including pursuing the process that had worked for 7 days. We had 7 days of a pause, 7 days of people coming home and being reunited with their families. So we're on that almost hour by hour. But meanwhile, we've also been very clear that we support Israel and its efforts to make sure that October 7th never happens again. We've also been very clear about the imperative of doing that in a way that puts a premium on protecting civilians and making sure that humanitarian assistance gets to those who need it.
South Korea says that its first military spy satellite has been placed into orbit on Saturday following the successful SpaceX rocket launch. Seoul confirmed that the satellite's communication was established with ground control. South Korea has launched its first domestically developed spy satellite on Friday via a SpaceX Falcon 9. The launch was carried out from California's Vandenberg Space Force Base after North Korea had successfully launched its own military reconnaissance satellite last month. And Elon Musk's company, which is SpaceX, also has put on a live stream of the mission.
It is a beautiful day for launch, and Falcon 9...
North Korea has warned that it would consider any interference with its satellite operations a declaration of war after the U.S. said that it had the capacity to deny North Korean satellites space capabilities through multiple means. North Korea also said that it would mobilize its war deterrence if any attack against the strategic assets were imminent. Pyongyang launched its first military spy satellite on November 21, which transmitted photos of military installations in the U.S. mainland, thus escalating the tensions between the two countries. Top defense officials from the United States, the United Kingdom and Australia have held a joint press briefing, and they've provided an update on the Australia-United Kingdom-United States Security Partnership that's called AUKUS. During this briefing, the U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said by implementing the strong standards of technology protection, they are reducing barriers to sharing information and technology.
And through Pillar 2, we have leveraged our respective defense innovation and industry sectors to develop and deliver advanced capabilities so that our warfighters can hear, see, and act with decisive advantage. And by implementing strong standards of technology protection, we are reducing barriers to sharing information and technology. And we're streamlining our processes to deliver these capabilities and lead our partnership forward for the next generation.
The Australian Deputy Prime Minister and Defence Minister Richard Marles said that the meeting was a critical moment in the development and the sharing of advanced technologies.
We're putting in place the architecture which will enable that to happen. through the International Joint Requirement Oversight Council, which will give a joint capacity to look at the technologies with which we are pursuing. Our armaments directors will be working together with a tabletop exercise next year, and as Lloyd mentioned, our innovation organisations, the Defence Innovation Unit of both the United States and the United Kingdom, along with the Australian Strategic Capabilities Accelerator, working together on joint challenges, which we'll see initially that happen in the space of electronic warfare.
India has received the maximum votes among candidates in the category of 10 states with the largest interest in international seaborne trade at the 2024-25 International Maritime Organization Council elections held in London on Friday. India's High Commission in London had written on X, grateful to partners for reposing strong faith again in India. Council in the category of states with the largest interest in international seaborne trade with a top tally of 157 votes. India's Parliamentary Affairs Minister Prahlad Joshi held a meeting, an all-party meeting that too, with the floor leaders of both the lower and upper houses of the Indian Parliament on Saturday. Now this meeting, it was attended by prominent BJP leaders, Bharatiya Janata Party leaders and top ministers, including India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. It aims to finalise the legislative business to be transacted in the winter session of Parliament that commences from the 4th of December and is extended up to the 22nd of December. The government has outlined 18 bills for consideration during the session, and the report of the Ethics Committee on the cash for query allegations against the Trinamool Congress MP Mahubooba Moitra will also be tabled in the Lok Sabha on the first day of the winter session. Piyush Goyal, India's Minister of Textiles, was the chief guest at the 81st plenary meeting of the International Cotton Advisory Committee in Mumbai on Saturday. During the event, the minister unveiled the postal stamp against Kasturi Cotton Bharat. I beg your pardon, it features Kasturi Cotton Bharat and a special postal cover. In his address, the Minister Piyush Goyal expressed confidence that India is on track to assuming the leading role in textile value chain.
Recognizing and respecting Prime Minister Modi's 5F vision from farm to fiber, fiber to factory, factory to fashion, and fashion to foreign, we are confident India is going to take the preeminent position in the textile value chain, and going forward, Kasturi cotton of Bharat will be a symbol of high quality, assured quality, world-class quality, serving the people across the world with sustainability and a product which will be incomparable to any other available in the market.
As part of the third phase of the Ek Bharat Shresh Bharat program, a program that emphasizes the unity of India, students from southern Indian state of Kerala are currently visiting various parts of the eastern state of Odisha under the banner of Yuva Sangam. Now, India's Union Minister of Education, Dharmendra Pradhan, and the Union Minister of State, V. Muralidharan, on Saturday, they met and interacted with the students in Bhubaneswar. The Education Minister said that students were happy to visit the state and are going to benefit from this program.
एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत ये प्रधानमंत्री जी की आह्वान है। उसी कड़ी में भारत सरकार की शिक्षा विभाग की ओर से युवा संगम 3 इसकी शुरुआत हुई है। उड़ीसा में केरल की विभिन्न इंस्टीट्यूशन के स्टूडेंट्स 42 स्टूडेंट्स आए हैं। IIM संबलपुर इनकी होस्ट है। ये लोग संबलपुर में कुछ समय बिताने के बाद राज्य की राजधानी भुवनेश्वर में पिछले 3 दिन से हैं। यहाँ पूरी भी गए, यहाँ के आदरणीय राज्यपाल महोदय को भी मिले, समाज जीवन के अनेक महत्वपूर्ण लोगों को मिले, यहाँ की समाज को दिखने का उनको अवसर मिला, बहुत प्रसन्न है।
Yuva Sangam is a confluence of youth. So the former tennis world #1 Rafael Nadal, he's going to return, and he's going to return at Brisbane International warm-up event for the Australian Open in January. He's a 22-time Grand Slam champion and one of the greatest that the game has ever seen. He has been absent from the court for almost a year with a hip injury. He has not played competitive tennis since bowing out in the second round of the Australian Open 1 year ago, which when hampered by a hip flexor problem. Now, Nadal will try to return to the highest level in Australia with the aim of competing at the French Open, which he has won a record 14 times. He's been overtaken, in fact, in the number of Grand Slam tournaments by Novak Djokovic, who was behind him. He's come from behind and overtaken him, and Novak Djokovic now has 24 major titles. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India Live. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us. Facebook, X, Instagram. That's where you can connect with us. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India Live. My name is Mark Lin. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.